I'm Jesse Green of Shapes in Nature.
Peter Clausen, Bugs in Cyberspace.
And we are on Animal Talk Live with Taylor today. And Taylor, why don't you introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and why bison?
Cool. Yeah. Hi, my name's Taylor. I'm a zookeeper at the Henry Viola Zoo in Madison, Wisconsin. And I won't bore you with all my long history or anything, but I used to be a bird keeper more so. And I took the opportunity working at a small zoo to kind of branch out and learn some other animals. And I started working with hoofstock, so giraffe, camel, Somali wild ass, rhino, and of course the bison. And they really kind of caught my eye, and I've been obsessed ever since, pretty much. It's been about 1.5 years that I've been working with them.
Oh, so at this zoo here, at the zoo at gosh, I just one blank. Henry Villa?
Henry Violas,
yeah.
I keep confusing with the Henry Dorley Zoo.
So that's Nebraska. They're also really cool. We're a lot smaller than them.
Right. How big is how big is it kind of a conservation thing? Like we have the condors at the Oregon Zoo, or the bison kind of a thing at that zoo, or is it just
ours is mostly we mostly do penguins, but I don't know, I'm just really into bison now.
Oh, well, I guess for people watching, what exactly is a bison? There's the American bison, right? And there's a couple species.
Yeah, so American bison, there are actually 3 species of bison. One of them is the wood bison, which is in Canada. We have American bison here in the US, and then there's the European bison over in Europe. But we'll focus on the American bison today. They're a really large-hoofed mammal, largest land mammal in North America, and they're what we call a ruminant, which is just a fancy word for how they digest their food, basically. So if you've seen a cow, they eat their grass, they swallow it down, and then they bring it back up, chew it again, and re-swallow it. That's what bison do. That's what a ruminant is. So they break down, this tough plant material, these tough cell walls, in their stomach, and then they have to bring it back up to re-chew it so it can go through the rest of the chambers of their stomach.
Yummy.
Yeah.
That's great.
So is there some genetic overlap now between the cows and the bison here in this country?
There is. So I know we'll get into the conservation stuff later, but for conservation reasons, we did have to, start breeding cows with bison just to try and get those numbers back up. So now we do have something called beefalo, which are a bison cattle hybrid. And so the only way that they would be able to, breed with each other is if they were closely related. So they're not the same genus, but they're close enough that they are able to reproduce.
Wow. Do they produce viable offspring that can, in turn, reproduce themselves?
They do. It's not like a mule situation. They actually can reproduce. So 2 of the bison, we have 3 at my zoo. 2 of them are both cattle hybrids, and the female has had a lot of calves. So
are there pure ones as well?
There are pure ones left. So our other bison is a pure bison, and she actually, I'm not sure what population she came from, but she did come from the wild, and since they have to kind of cull those herds out there, so she came to us from the wild. But there are a couple pure populations. There's one at Yellowstone. There's one at, I think it's Wind Cave National Park, and they just discovered another one in the Henry Mountains in Utah. So we have a couple populations of pure bison out there. Bison
and buffalo. I did grow up calling them buffalo. My dad's from South Dakota originally, and I was taught buffalo. I went to Yellowstone when I was a kid, and as I understand it now, that's not the correct term for what we have in this country.
Correct. So technically that's not the right thing to call them. I think that it came from the French word for beef is boeuf. And so I think that's where we kind of got buffalo going here in the US, but they're actually completely different species. Buffalo, they are native to Asia and Africa. So, like the Cape buffalo, you have water buffalo, and they look a lot more like cows or bulls than our bison do. So they're completely different. And I basically just remember it in that they're native to different continents than bison are.
Huh. So we should all just drop the word buffalo at this point in terms of talking about the ones in this country or in
Pretty
Canada.
much. And I know it's in our folklore. It's in all these songs, you know, like "Give Me a Home" where the buffalo roam, but
Right.
Right.
not quite correct.
That song's never going to change that. I mean, you can't change that. You know, it doesn't have the same "Give Me Home" when the bison roam. It doesn't have the same ring to it. You know.
No.
It's a syllable short at the very least.
Right. You can go on there. You can get there.
So historically, and then in the modern context, what was the distribution of the American bison? And you mentioned that there's 3 species. I didn't actually know there were 3 species. Are the 2 in this country, the wood bison, I think, and is the other one called the plains bison?
Yeah, so the ones we have are the American bison is the plains bison. Yeah.
Are those fully designated as species or subspecies?
I think. Oh, that's a great question. I think that it's a subspecies. I'm not 100% sure, but the wood bison is more located in Canada, so
Okay.
it's not so much in the U.S. And then we have the plains bison here. So historically, our plains bison roamed from, you know, all the way up to the northern territories of Canada, down like more south than Mexico City, and then almost across the entire country, basically just not on the coast, not so much in Arizona, but almost everywhere else they were active. And then over time, you know, the population kind of got decimated, so that kind of shrunk more and more and more. And now we only have a few pockets of bison, mostly in the Midwest. And then we have a lot of private owners of herds of bison who use them for like livestock purposes.
Right. So American bison is a keystone species, and but what is their environmental importance exactly? What makes them a keystone species?
Yeah, absolutely. So they are out there, you know, eating all these prairie grasses and shrubs and everything, digesting them. But what comes out in their feces is some of the seeds. So those seeds, you know, keep replanting different prairie grasses and plants and things to kind of keep that ecosystem going. Additionally, they are helpful to, you know, the bird species around will come and like pick through their feces for seeds and things like that. And then the fact that they like roam everywhere, their hooves actually aerate the soil. So it kind of helps stimulate plant growth. And then also the birds like that because more bugs come up that they can eat. So kind of a lot of just regenerating plants.
When you talk about the hooves, is that kind of because they're usually in herds, right? So there's going to be a lot of them.
Yeah, so there's a lot of them, and they walk up to like 3 miles a day in the wild, so they are covering a lot of ground.
Are they a migration animal? Do they tend to migrate?
They do migrate, but not to the extent that you'd think, you know, a bird is migrating to a different hemisphere. They kind of stay pretty local, but they do migrate from, you know, up on a mountain down to lower elevations during the winter.
Now that fur, they got to keep kind of cool, right? they gotta
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good. Their bones. I read something that their bones actually make fertilizer as well.
I hadn't heard that until recently, and apparently it's because it's high in phosphorus. So that was a big thing. Yeah, back in the day, hunters would collect the skulls and then they would get like ground down and used as fertilizer for crops because the phosphorus helps. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. I'm not a plant person, so I don't know how true that is, but that's what I was reading.
That is interesting though. Yeah, I read that and I was like, what? You know, it was bizarre. That's cool. Huh.
Besides humans, and I know we're going to get into this a little bit in the next section, but what natural predators did or do bison have?
So I want to start by saying that not many things can take down a healthy, full-grown, you know, bison because they weigh between, the females are, you know, a little over 1,000 pounds and the males can weigh up to 2,000 pounds. So there's not that many animals that are going to try and take that down. Plus them being in a herd, whereas like, you know, deer, when something chases them, they all kind of scatter. The bison are going to try and stand their ground and protect each other. So there's not too many predators that are willing to deal with that. That being said, they do have gray wolves and grizzly bears and the occasional mountain lion that'll try and take down, you know, a calf or one of the injured older bison or things like that.
Are there any cases in the last, you know, 50 years or whatever of in Yellowstone, for example, a natural predator actually taking a bison down? Do you know?
I haven't heard of any because I think it's
Yeah.
pretty rare, and there's so many easier things to attack than a bison.
Right.
Yet so many people walk right up to these animals in Yellowstone and get injured. Like, I don't know how that's a smart idea ever to walk up
It's
to
crazy to me.
I don't understand.
Crazy.
I've seen it. I've actually seen it happen. People walk right up to it. And it's like,
Oh,
what are you doing? Stop. You know? Like,
no.
Darwin Award.
Right.
Exactly.
I think we're going to get into conservation here in a minute. Originally, aside from the natural predators, Native Americans would be a predator of them, I guess you could say, and drive them off of cliffs to, as a source of food for them. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that's like such a smart way to do this. I mean, so it was called a buffalo jump, which also incorrect, but technically a bison jump. But they would kind of herd them off a cliff, and then there would be some tribe members down at the bottom of the cliff waiting for the bison to come over and like break their legs or break whatever, and then kind of just finish the job. Which, I mean, they had to do what they had to do. And the Native Americans, they're using every single part of these bison. They're not hunting them to extinction. They're doing it in a very sustainable way. So, I mean, I completely understand. And I think that it was a smart thing to do for them. And that all kind of changed with, in the 1600s, they started having like the horses came in and they started domesticating those. So the hunt kind of changed, and that hunt, the driving them off the cliffs kind of died out with the horses coming in.
Precursor to horses. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, off subject. I believe horses came from Spain, didn't they, originally? Most horses?
Oh, I don't know. I think so.
I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Speaking of their conservation status, prior to the 1880s, they flourished. I mean, there were millions of these things in the plains and whatnot.
Yeah.
But what are they like now? Are they considered endangered? I mean, are they an endangered animal now, or?
So there's kind of a scale. It's not just like endangered or not endangered. There's a whole,
Right.
sliding scale.
Critically,
it
depends.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. So least concern is, like your raccoons and things that you're seeing every day. They're the next level up, which is near threatened. So their population is stable. They don't warrant like immediate action to not go extinct, but we should still be keeping an eye on it, basically, is what that means. So I think there's about 30,000 of them roaming wild. And then again, there's like 450,000 plus in privately owned, like livestock situations. Right. So I think that we do have the resources that we could start, reintroducing more and more if we suddenly had like a die off somewhere, Yeah,
but you go from millions to 400,000. What caused that?
So, it kind of was a lot of things coming to a head. So this was like, in the mid 1800s, there was, all the people wanting to go west, the colonizers trying out new things, finding new land. They wanted to build a railway across the country. And in the process of doing that, they were encountering a lot of Native American tribes, and they were not able to really combat them very well because the Native Americans were fighting much differently than what the settlers and colonizers were really used to. So they realized that the Native Americans, they really rely on the bison for food, shelter. They wear the skin for clothing. They use the hooves to make glue. Like every single part of this animal is being used. So they called for a massive, like countrywide hunt of these bison to kind of rid the Native Americans of their food source. And basically everything source. So it was kind of crazy. I was reading, it was like 300,000 bison a year were getting killed for like a couple decades. So, whatever, like less than 100 a day, but still a lot of bison that no one was using because there's no way for them to, ship all those back. So that was kind of the main thing that led to.
Yeah, we're not talking about loss of population or pollution or anything like we deal with mostly for loss of species nowadays. We're talking about a mass extermination to get rid of other people, which is just absurd. I mean, that's insane.
Disgusting. Yeah.
Like, wow. I mean, not only, it's getting rid of two, it's just completely unbalancing. Oh,
It's
yeah.
insane. Yeah, because there were over, 30 million at one point. They estimate 30 to 60 million. And by the end of this extermination, there were like less than 500 left.
That's
So,
insane. And
yeah.
and is that what caused the interbreeding with cows to get that population back up?
Exactly. So there were a couple of different efforts going on. One was they started being bred with cattle, and then another is Teddy Roosevelt and this guy named William Hornaday captured a couple of them and brought them back to the New York City Zoo, which is now known as the Bronx Zoo, and set up a breeding population there. And then once the Smithsonian Zoo got created, they also sent some there because at first it was just the museums, and then they ended up having a zoo. So they sent some bison there to have those separate breeding populations. And they also, William Hornaday and Teddy Roosevelt also ended up founding the American Bison Society, which is a conservation effort to, get bison reintroduced into their native range, basically. So yeah, there were a lot of that. I mean, it was good that Teddy Roosevelt, went out and saw the devastation and realized that we need to do something. But it's just unfortunate that it had to get to that point before.
Well, I was going to say, so in a way, that's a success story. I mean, we brought them back, but also is it kind of to you hard to call it a success story if it was caused by us in the first place, just by getting rid of them for
Exactly
reasons? I mean, so it was a necessity, and it is a success, and thankfully it was a success, but it's like nothing to celebrate about, really, almost, kind of.
Exactly. So I have a couple mixed feelings about this. One is what you just expressed, and then also I know this is going to be a little bit of a tangent to bison, but William Hornaday is actually kind of a pretty awful person. And so the fact that he's like leading this effort, I'm like, I'm so glad you were there, but also you are awful. So I don't know if anyone watching has heard of Ota Benga, but he's like the African pygmy that they captured from the Congo and put into the zoo in the Bronx. He like lived with an orangutan. So, and William Hornaday is the one who facilitated that. So for me, I'm like, oh, that's great that you brought back the bison, but also you're a horrible human.
But also, let's just forget about you. So
yeah.
His dad
exactly.
Yeah. I don't think they ever even put one up. They're like, yeah, that was wrong. They're just like,
no, thank you.
Yeah, really no. You go.
So the train system, you mentioned trains a moment ago, and the train going from the east to the west really did a lot to give people access to the bison out in the west, and also the bison themselves were a danger to the trains, as I understand it, and so the trains themselves would encourage the hunting of bison from in the areas of the trains, or didn't they shoot them from the trains as well?
Yeah, exactly. So the trains, I mean, definitely aided in the hunting of these bison because the hunters were a little more protected by shooting from the train. And also, I mean, there was all this reward money as well for every bison that got killed. These hunters are getting paid as well. So it was just the whole system was just not ideal.
Bison themselves, they can be an obstacle to the trains when they're on the tracks. And I had read that was part of the reason why they began to exterminate them without having any other use for them. They were shooting them, and I don't know how accurate it is, if they were actually a danger to the trains or they just said they were, used that as an excuse to kill them.
I mean, the trains were cutting through land that bison were in, and I mean, as you've seen with visitors in Yellowstone, they can be aggressive if they're bothered. So when they're building a train through the bison's land, of course it's going to be a danger. I don't know how real that danger was for them, but I can see that being a problem, with a bunch of these massive bison herds around.
Right. That's intense. And we already kind of talked about the American bison and whatnot, but what about privately owned bison? I know that there was a lot of people that would kind of privately own them, even back in the day and now, and what are your thoughts on that? I mean, is that helping towards the conservation? Is that a successful thing, or?
So right now it's kind of hard because, well, for me it's kind of hard because there aren't I know the bison are, near threatened. They're not a super endangered species. However, we still only have 30,000 of them. We used to have, 30,000 wild ones, and we used to have 30 million. So to me, I don't think we should be having these private owners using them as we use cows, because there's millions and millions of cows, and we're using them for food. We're using them for the same things we use cows for. So for me, it's kind of hard to reconcile. I understand why we're doing it, but I just wish our wild herds were a little bit bigger. Right. I know there are some private owners that do breeding and that are working on reintroduction efforts, and that's wonderful. I really love that. We can do a lot through private breeders. That's how, the pronghorns have come back, and like a lot of other hoofstock in Africa through private breeders in the US, they're getting reintroduced, and that can be great, but it still stresses me out when we're using them like we use cows, and there's not.
Especially because I feel like bison eats kind of like that novelty meat, right? Like you eat a bison burger or whatever, and it's like, but really you can just have a beef burger, and it's pretty much the same. So
pretty close, yeah.
So we already kind of did talk about the relationship with Native Americans, but we really didn't get to go. We didn't really get to go into what they use these animals for. I mean, we talked about food, but they use them for a lot more: tools and sacred ceremonies, all kinds of stuff. So I don't know if you know too much about that, but tell us a little bit about that. Like there was a really deep bond with Native Americans.
So besides using the whole animal, like the hooves got ground down and made into glue to put things together, and their hides for clothes, and the fur for clothes, and shelter, and blankets, and all of those uses. I know the bison were like super sacred to them, and they really, really worshipped there was like albino bison, and so they call it the white bison, and that was like a really sacred symbol to them as well. So I know that they really appreciated the bison and did respect them and used them in the way that they needed to. They didn't waste any of it.
Right. I do kind of find it ironic that the American bison's the national mammal of the United States, especially after what we did to them. But I guess it's kind of our way of saying sorry, I guess. But,
right.
There's in my research for this, I had noticed that there's some controversy that goes on between people who love the bison and want to protect it, and then a lot of cattle ranchers. And a word that was coming up a lot was brucellosis, and a disease that can be passed from wild bison to the cattle on ranches. And by allowing them to free roam into Yellowstone, where there is no fence or something, they sometimes cross over this boundary. It's kind of an imaginary boundary. They can come and go across it, and once they cross that line, they can be hunted maybe by some people. Can you tell us a little bit about that whole thing?
Yeah. So one of the smaller herds of bison that we have is in Yellowstone. The ironic thing about brucellosis is that it came from domestic cattle to bison in the beginning, and then we got rid of it in domestic cattle by treating it, and now a lot of the wild populations of bison have it, and we're like, no, get away from us, but we gave it to them. But yeah, so if they get too close to any cattle farmers or any of the cows, they can easily transfer it to them. And that disease causes abortion in fetuses. So if you're trying to breed your cattle, you obviously don't want that to be happening. So yeah, it's kind of hard. And I know that part of the reason that they every year the national parks like cull part of the herd. And it's not as violent as it sounds. Sometimes some of them get sent to zoos. That's how we got one of our bison. And then sometimes they get sent to different Native American reservations so that they can do like ceremonies and use them the way that they were used in the past. But that's part of the reason why they do that, is because if the herds get too big, they need to roam even more space, and they don't want them to cross this invisible border and be hunted. So that's kind of why they control those herds.
So now I read somewhere that the population that is in Yellowstone is the oldest, possibly the oldest and largest population in the United States of bison?
Yeah, so they've been around since like prehistoric times. It's like a couple million years easy, you know, like they've been there for a really long time. So I'm glad they're still doing okay.
Right, right, right. Yeah, no, that's really neat that they. I'm wondering. I didn't do enough research on it, but I'm wondering how low the population went in Yellowstone, and I'm assuming because of location, they were kind of able to thrive better during that whole time than
So
other
I'm
areas.
not sure exactly what the number of that specific population went. Also, you have to remember, like, their bison's territory, I mean, it was way bigger, and there was a lot more flux in where they could go. Whereas now you're not going to see very many bison like right outside of Yellowstone. Back in the day, you would see them kind of all over that area. So it's kind of hard to tell like exactly what their numbers got down to. But I think there's a couple hundred. I'm not sure exactly what it is now, but none of the herds that we have right now in the U.S. are that big. It's a lot of pretty small herds.
It's pretty small.
Yeah.
Big. So, before we end here, I just wondered. So, what do you do at the zoo you're at, and how do you work with the bison? I mean, are they pretty friendly there? I mean, they're pretty domesticated, obviously, but what's your
Sure. Yeah, so at the zoo, so I'm the bison primary, but I'm not in there every single day. Host dog is my main, like my main routine. I usually do, again, like giraffe, camel, donkeys, rhino, bison. I'm training on lemurs right now, so I'm kind of getting some primates into my life.
Nice.
My zoo is really small, so it's nice that we get to like go into different areas of the zoo and learn about different animals that I probably wouldn't work with otherwise. But our bison are pretty great. We have two older ones, so our male is 23, our female's 22, and our young one that we just got in March is 7. And we don't work in with them. We don't share space with them, just like you'd see at Yellowstone. You know, you're supposed to keep your distance. So we are protected contact with them, which means that we never share space with them. But they are very friendly. They do know my voice because I work with them the most. So I'll walk by the gates and say hi, and you know they'll come over and you can give them a treat. But yeah, they're pretty independent. They're pretty low maintenance. They just really like their food and laying around in the sun.
How long does a bison live? What is their average age?
Oh, you're killing me. That's one of my trivia questions.
Oh, okay. All right.
We'll hold it.
We'll hold it. So why don't we get into a little bit of Q&A for anyone that's on. If anyone wants to ask some questions about bison, we are going to do trivia right after this. But yeah, if you guys want to throw up some questions, go for it. That sounds great.
Also,
yeah, I mean, obviously, I think I kind of fell in love with bison when I was a kid. When I watched the movie Dances with Wolves, honestly, that was like, I was like, well, I didn't really know what they were. I was so little, and then of course seeing one up close was just like, this is like the biggest thing I've ever seen in my life.
They're huge. They're huge, and the ones at my zoo are hybrids, so they're smaller. Well, at least the male is smaller than like a normal male would be, or a pure male would be, and he's still he took my breath away the first time I was right next to him. I was like, dude, you are huge. He's like 1,600 pounds. He's a big guy.
God. That's a big. I just still don't get it. The people like in Yellowstone just are like, oh, I'm gonna go walk up to that. It's like, oh, it has a baby. Reason. Let's go pet it.
Right.
It's like, you're gonna die. Like,
yeah, yeah. It's not fun. They can go from 0 to, I guess they run like 35 miles an hour or something, but they can go to 0 to 35 really fast.
Oh wow. Well, it's not like we're getting any questions here. Does anyone want to ask any questions or go into trivia? I mean,
my first introduction to the buffalo, besides going to Yellowstone when I was very young, the buffalo nickel. Did I say buffalo a minute ago instead of bison?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the buffalo nickel. And I had one when I was a kid, and I wonder if I still have that somewhere.
I remember that. I have some of those.
Do you?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
You'll have to show me your quaint collection because you've mentioned it a few times.
I will. I'll bust it out sometime.
I have some old silver dollars from the 1800s.
I have like a really pristine, what do they call it, buffalo nickel. What they called those. Here we go. Here's a question. How much can they weigh?
So the males, if it's a non-hybrid, the males can weigh up to about 2,000 pounds. The females are about half that size, like 1,000 to 1,200 pounds.
Wow. Jeez. Yeah. Here we go. Are there any insects that are beneficial or harmful to bison? Or I guess you could say parasites too.
I should have known coming in here that I should have researched some insect stuff.
Yeah,
But
come on, Taylor.
I sure didn't.
Don't you know where you are?
I know. I'm so sorry. I'm ashamed.
Do they deal with ticks or botfly at all?
Sorry?
Do they deal with botflies at all? Because
think
our zoo gets botfly, and it sucks.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I haven't dealt with any like ticks or botflies or anything like that with our bison. They've had parasites in their feces, so it's stuff that happens in their gut when the balance gets all off. That's like the main thing I've dealt with, but I don't know of any that are like beneficial to them. And sorry, I did a bad job. I'm so sorry.
Parasites count.
I mean, I feel like a benefit would be, the bugs that are, eating in their poop and all that kind of stuff to kind of keep everything fresh, I reckon. I guess it's an indirect help. I guess it's not like little like flies or something like giving a bath or whatever, but
Maybe I'm thinking of like Warner Brothers cartoons or something, but aren't there birds on the prairie that sit atop the bison and like pick bugs off them or something?
So I don't know if that's so much bison, but they do.
Definitely in Africa.
I was gonna say there's birds in Africa that do that, like on rhinos and stuff. But for bison, they do take their fur and make nests out of it. It's not a super benefit to the bison, but beneficial to the birds.
Yeah, right.
Maybe it's summertime and they're getting hot.
Maybe it's like the best feeling for bison. They're like, oh, that felt great there. Hit that at the spot.
Like getting a haircut.
What did Native Americans call them?
Oh man, you guys are killing me. I feel like the worst guest right now.
Well, I remember.
There's probably a couple hundred languages.
Well, and the one I do remember is from Dances with Wolves, and it was Tatonka. Like I only remember because of that movie.
I haven't seen that in so long, but yes.
Oh yeah, I watched that when I was a kid so much. I don't know why. Why did I watch that movie so much?
I've never seen it.
What? Oh well, that's typical. You don't watch movies, Peter. He doesn't.
I'd rather watch a bison standing in a field.
Heck yeah.
Doing nothing.
There you go.
That's just eating grass.
Yeah.
Doing what it does best, eating.
Yes.
What is their favorite enrichment? And
yeah. First of all, hi Rachel. Secondly, the ones at our zoo, they really like their dirt piles. So it's just like this big mound of dirt that we kind of aerate every once in a while. And our male loves to wallow in it, so he'll roll in it, and it helps him get rid of any biting flies that might be on him because he kind of coats himself with dirt. And it also, he likes to scent mark on it, so he's living with 2 females. So he's like, "Hey, ladies, take a smell of this. This is nice." And so he'll just roll around in that pile.
Take a smell of this. I wonder if that works in the human world. I shouldn't try that.
I was like, "Don't try that.
Don't try that.
And it also helps them shed, so that's something that they really like in the summer. And they also have a log that they love to rub on. It's like a massive tree chunk, and they just rub their fur off during the spring to help shed.
Speaking of fur rubbing, something I read was a lot of people that claimed they had seen Sasquatch in Yellowstone and whatnot. It was actually because they were like, "We have fur proving it." It was actually just bison fur, like the whole time. Like there are these fuzzy animals out there.
Yeah.
How much? Here we go. How much of their weight is from their fur? Ooh.
Surprisingly, not that much. I don't have an exact amount for you, but having worked with them for a full shedding season, they shed probably like 2 to 3 garbage bags worth of fur, and it's surprisingly lightweight for how dense it is. So it's not, I would say, less than 100 pounds easy. Like it's not that much fur.
So they're mostly just muscle.
They're just thick, yeah.
They're thick. I'm gonna make a bison shirt that just says "thick" on it.
Yeah. I mean, I would be the first one to buy that for sure.
Right. Maybe it'll be a one of a kind just for you.
Perfect.
Right. What sounds do they make, and does it sound more like a cow after breeding with cows?
Ooh, good question.
Yeah.
That is a really good question.
It is.
So they are pure bison female. She hasn't really made any sounds at all that I've heard of. Our male, however, when he's getting a little hormonal, he'll make kind of like a snorting sound. I would try to imitate it, but I can't. It's kind of like
come on, give us your best shot.
It's kind of like
we'll do it too.
We'll do it too.
Okay. Okay, it's kind of like, but like more nasally, like.
Oh no, we're not doing that.
I'm trying to try. No, that sounds like a
Yeah.
pig.
It's like that, but it's deeper. It's kind
Deeper?
of like, yeah, it's like
So they're
it's
like
more in the
the
back. I
death
don't know.
metal pigs. No.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, so he'll do that, and that's when I know he's kind of excited that the ladies are around. And he also he'll huff a lot, like just exhale really heavily when he's interested in them.
So you know when he's ready.
Yeah, but he is vasectomized, so nothing is going to happen.
So he'll never truly be ready. Yeah, but he can always imagine it. How did you start working with bison?
So my zoo is really small. I came in as a bird keeper, and then I realized our bird collection isn't quite as exciting as I would like it to be, and it's probably a few years out from being where I would prefer it to be. So I kind of took this opportunity. I just mentioned to my manager, I said, hey, I've always wanted to try working hoofstock, and she said, that's great. Yeah, we can make that happen. You can help in barns, and you can help with bison as well. And so my first day in bison was about a year and a half ago. And I remember meeting them all for the first time, and I was just like, well, this is the best. I want to be in here all the time. So
They had you at first bison, huh?
Exactly.
Let's see here. How many kids will a female bison have in her lifetime?
So it's kind of crazy. They can have a calf every year during the time that they, like every consecutive year during the time that they are fertile. And some, it starts as early as like 2 or 3, and then it can go into their late teens. So I don't know that this is the typical number, but they could have, I mean, they could technically have, between like 14 and 18 if they were breeding every single season. But that not all bison breed every season. So
Anybody who's good at math will know the answer to your trivia question now.
Right. But how many babies can they have at one time?
Just one. Just one
at a time. And
yeah.
What are they called? Mini fuzzy tanks? No kidding.
You're really
calves,
burning
right?
through all of my trivia questions, so I'll answer this one though. Bison calves are called red dogs because they are more of a rust color and they're really cute.
Oh.
That's
So how big are they when they're born? How many
They're about
pounds?
50 to 70 pounds, so they're pretty small.
What?
Yeah, it's like a large dog.
That's tiny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine giving birth to a 50-pound child. I'd be like, no.
Yeah.
It'd be so painful.
I can't.
Then again, I can't imagine
And
giving
I
birth to
won't.
anything. So, All right, well, let's switch gears. Let's get into some trivia. Now that we've answered all the trivia questions, let's get into some trivia, shall we?
Yeah.
I will. Let me lay out the rules here. We got 3 winner possibilities. You got first place, you get the 3 stickers. Second place, you get 2 stickers, and the third place, you get 1 sticker. If we do have to go into a sudden death, we will have to. One of you will have to die. So no, I'm kidding. No. If we will do a sudden death, meaning that you will have to go against the other person that you are tied with.
I'm going to push you off the bison jump.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do the bison jump. Anyways, why don't we start with your first question if you got one? Let's do it.
Okay, well, I'll start off with an easier one that may have already been answered. What is the lifespan of bison in the wild?
What is the lifespan of bison in the wild? Oh, and another thing is if you answer a question and you think you were first, I'm going by what I see on here. Sometimes it's a little bit different, so I'm gonna have to go by what I see, no matter what it looks like on your end. Just to let everyone know.
And this one, it has like a wide range too.
15, 20 years. There you go. All right, Kim.
Pretty good. It's 10 to 20 years.
Between how many points is that? 1, 2, or 3 points?
You asking me?
Yeah. How many points do you want that to
I'm gonna
be?
give that a 2 points.
2 points. All right, Kim, you got 2 points. Go for it.
What is the name for the cliffs that bison were directed towards by the Native Americans for food purposes?
What is the name that of the cliff?
Yeah.
That bison were directed towards for food that were for
Yeah. They directed them towards the cliff. They went over the cliff. What were these things called? A device of sorts for the hunting of bison. It's really hard for me not to say buffalo. It really is. Like I'm struggling.
You're going to have to stop.
I'm
You're
really
gonna have to give
struggling.
it up. See if anyone can come up with it. Our usual spicy beans not on today. Our
No
usual
spicy
people
beans.
aren't here today. Yeah, I know. We got. We'll see. And yeah, you feel free to use Google. Google is your friend. We're not gonna hold that against anyone. Bison jump. There you go. Ginger Charmander. What is that anyway?
Oh, Ginger Charmander commented on my post yesterday about this and said that the bison was their favorite animal.
Awesome. Oh, yeah. How many points is that?
2.
2 points. It is. All right. So I guess my first question will be. This is 2 points. What is the Latin name for the plains bison? It is a very easy one. Do you know what it is?
I don't know what it is, but because
awesome.
you're saying it's easy, is the genus and species the same?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
I've noticed in some other animals that sometimes they do that. It's the same.
Like the lowland gorilla. It's just
Yeah.
What is it for the lowland gorilla?
gorilla.
Really? Yep.
Oh, that is like a subspecies too?
Mm-hmm.
Bison. Now, is it bison or bison for the plains gorilla?
Depends on how far you're wanting to go. I think 2 is
Yeah,
good.
right. We're gonna go with bison. No.
If you use all 3, you got to give them 3 points.
Yeah, exactly. Ginger Charmander got it. I have a feeling Ginger Charmander might win this one. Favorite animal and all. All right, your turn next.
Okay, we didn't answer this one yet. So, how much can a bison eat per day?
Ooh, nice talk.
I guess on average. I guess it's on average. How much do they eat per day?
1 Dodge Ram. That was someone answered a question like that on one of the other ones we did one time. What was the bite force of a wolf? And someone said 1 Dodge Ram. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Get a point for most creative. So how much can a bison eat per day? I'm assuming a lot.
Well, that's what someone answered, and I think that's a good answer.
To a nearest what?
I would go
10
for
pounds,
in pounds.
100 pounds, what?
I'd say in pounds. Within 5. There you go.
25 pounds?
That's my mom, and the answer is 24 pounds.
All right, close enough. Mojo 54.
Good job, Mom.
How many points was that?
I'll give her 2 points for that.
Give her 2 points. Is that because it's your mom? Is that why you're
Yeah,
giving
it was going to be 1 point.
All right. Fine. Yeah, it's safer this way. It's safer.
Right.
Trust me, I know all about this.
What is the value of the coin that the bison is on? U.S. currency. What was the value of the coin?
We talked about this.
We did talk about this. I had to come up with all these trivia questions while we were doing this, by the way.
Okay.
Because I totally spaced the trivia portion.
That's not fair. That's not right. I spent hours on these, Peter.
I'll give you a nickel, Jesse.
Ginger Charmander, you got it. How many points is that? 1, 2, or 3?
5.
What?
5 points.
No.
There you go.
I'm not doing.
One point.
All right.
It's got to be this question today.
Yeah, exactly. Alrighty, let's see. True or false? The Yellowstone bison herd is possibly the oldest and largest public herd in the USA. True or false? We talked about this. Do you have any of those I guess I should call them bison nickels, even though they're called buffalo nickels. Do you have any of those? Those old
I
coins?
don't. I apparently need one, though.
You need one. I don't even.
I had a necklace of one, actually. That's where I sourced my 1 buffalo nickel.
That's
And
cool.
I took it out of the necklace.
True is correct. Lightly crocheted. Got it.
Uh-huh.
True is correct. All right, your question.
Okay, when referring to bison, what is a red dog?
They're a hangover remedy or what? No, I guess. Oh, those lushes, those bison always drinking out there.
It's a good mixer with Jägermeister.
Yeah. Right. Bison baby?
Yep, correct.
Bison baby. All right. Lightly got it again. How many points is that? 1, 2, or 3?
I'll give her 1.
All right. All right. Here you go.
This was mentioned early on. How many subspecies of bison are there in the world?
How many subspecies of bison are there in the world?
I wasn't entirely clear on whether it was number of species or subspecies, but I think we decided it was probably subspecies.
I think it's subspecies, but I'm
3.
definitely Googling when I'm done.
3 is the answer. Oh man, how many points is that?
2.
2. Man, someone just got into second place. All right. So I guess it's my question, ain't it? Well. What is the social group for bison known as?
Ooh, good question.
That's good.
Hey, look, I remember hours, Peter. I spent hours. Okay, you, Mr. Fit, came up with these in a minute.
I have my.
Okay, I won't lie. I did these like 30 minutes before we started as well.
Better than 30 minutes after.
Heard it is. And that was 1 point. All right, we have a tie for first place between Ginger Charmander and Lightly Crushed. All right, your question is up.
Okay. I have 3 answers for this. Why do bison wallow or roll in the dirt? And I'll take any of the 3.
Good question.
Yeah, that is a good question.
One of the positive environmental impacts of bison was in creating those wallows. I read that those will fill with rainwater, providing habitat for lots of bugs.
Yes.
Ponds,
yeah.
Little ponds.
Little
They're
pond.
so great.
Temporary
Vernal pool.
pools, yeah.
Yeah, right on. Attract the ladies. That is definitely the thing.
So do only males do it?
Yeah, well, females do for other reasons, but the males are the ones who are scent marking when they do
So
it.
what are the other 2 reasons?
Fly protection and as well as to help shed their fur.
Why don't I give a... Okay, you know what? Eater flies. Yeah, I'm gonna give a bit of a point to the different ones that were answered on here. So attract the ladies. I'll give your mom. We'll go with 2 points just to be safe. And Ginger Charmander got 2 points for the bug one, so we're good. All right. Ginger Charmander back in the lead. All right, I think it's your question there, pal.
What president is credited with, I guess, doing the most for bison in terms of leading to their conservation?
We definitely should get that one. What president? Because I'm old. No, forever young. Okay. Oh, she's saying, yeah. Oh, look, hey, look. Was that 1 point, 2 points, 3 points?
1.
1 point. Ginger Charmander. Getting it again. Teddy Roosevelt is the answer on that one. All right. True or false? The bison is considered the United States of America's national mammal. True or false?
I wonder what his competition was. I know the eagle and the turkey really had to battle it
The
out.
Western marmot. No kidding.
True
True it is. True it is. Man, your mom's not doing too bad in this.
Yes. Good job, JoJo.
All right. So I think it's your question. We have final questions here.
Okay. Well, I only came up with 4, so this is off the top of my head. True or false, the bison's historic range extended at one point all the way into Mexico.
True or false? Let's see.
We talked about this.
We did.
And that's when I learned the answer.
For the next one that pops up. True or false? Historically, the bison's range went down into Mexico. True or false? Throw up true or false. Come on, you get a 50-50 chance.
If someone guesses wrong, we're going to laugh hard.
Hey,
don't laugh.
True.
I'm already laughing.
True it is. All righty.
All right.
2.
How many points do you want this one to be worth, Jesse?
Make it 3.
3 points. 3 points for, besides the plains bison, what is the other common name for the other bison here in North America? got the plains bison and the
Fabulous bison. Yeah.
Nope. We're deducting points from your total for that answer, Jim.
Look, I've already been in the negative, all right?
Born negative.
So besides the plains bison, what is the other bison known as? That's the one up in Canada, isn't it?
Ginger Charmander.
Yeah, there you go.
Giving everybody a...
Gosh, Ginger Charmander knows more than I do.
I guess Ginger Charmander. Yep, that's it right there. 3 points. My gosh, you are way in the lead there, pal. All right. My last question is also 3 points. This one you might have to look up. What species of extinct bison migrated from Siberia into Alaska across the Bering Land Bridge? What species of extinct bison migrated from Siberia into Alaska across the Bering Land Bridge?
Are you looking for the scientific or
No,
common?
it could be any. You can do both. It doesn't matter. Any one of them.
A good one.
That is a good one.
It's also, I believe, the largest bison that was ever to ever exist, and the thing was like almost as big as a woolly mammoth or something like that. It was like enormous. It was the bodacious bison. Yeah.
Who said that?
Your mom, actually.
Oh.
I apologize.
You
She's
want-
retired.
She's retired. Come on, someone could get this. I mean, I bet if you just type in extinct bison, it'll be the first thing that pops up.
I remember seeing the name of it when I was doing my research on it.
It's not bison latifron,
And that definitely would have been one of my trivia questions.
although that is a good guess.
How big was it?
They're big. I don't remember it, but they were like almost. They were in the 2,800 pound region or something.
So not that much larger than the modern one.
Yep, bison antiquus. Yep, that's it right there. Ginger Charmander. Wow,
What was
you
the answer?
smoked it.
Bison antiguus?
Yeah, antiquus. It's 2 U's.
Just an antique bison. Yeah.
It's also known as the antique bison.
Oh, I thought it was super bison.
Super bison.
I saw super bison when I was
Listen,
reading.
we're not in a Marvel comic episode here, okay? All right. I mean, yeah, I think that is actually something, the super bison.
I think it is too.
All right, so between Lightly and Mojo, you guys have a sudden death.
Sudden death.
Sudden
This
death.
for second place?
Sudden death. This is for second place. So,
Heading towards the bison jump.
yep, I'm gonna make you. You're gonna have to ask another question. This is on you again.
Me?
Yeah, you gotta
Oh,
ask another
no.
question. Listen, you're the pro,
Oh no.
right?
Okay.
Not like bugs, okay? Like, come on.
Let's see. What zoo housed the first captive breeding population of bison?
That's
And
a
I'll
good-
take either the current name of the zoo or the name as it was back in the day.
New York Zoo. There you go. All right. All right. So, Ginger Charmander, obviously, send me a message with your address and what 3 stickers you want.
Do you have a bison sticker?
Not yet, but I have a bison design. But that's coming out later. That's coming out in the North American series.
Okay.
So it ain't coming out right now, but that will be a thing. It will be a thing. And Lightly, of course, just send me a message with your address and what 2 stickers you want. And you know what? I'm going to give your mom 2 stickers as well. So send me a message with your address, and I'll give you a couple stickers. Whatever ones you want, check out my website. Check out shapesofnature.com. That's where all of them are posted. Look through any of them. I don't have a bison one right now, but I do have wolves.
You have drawn the bison.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You just haven't created products with it yet.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about using that design for something in conservation, Taylor. We could look at something, maybe get together on that and make a shirt.
That would be
So-
awesome.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yes.
Isn't the bison your dad's favorite animal?
It is. That is true. That's like my dad's favorite animal is the bison.
I should have worked
Which
that into
actually,
a
that
trivia.
design that I drew was for him for Christmas. As
Oh,
well.
that's so sweet.
So yeah, it was a pretty good time. Well, we got about 2 minutes left, so I guess we could just kind of close it out. Thank you everyone for stopping by and checking it out. Taylor, always, I'm so glad to see you again. You have to come visit sometime. We got to go adventure, and
I'm
we got to
working
go
on it
out
in
and check out the
November.
zoo. We got to go to that zoo and check out the bison out there for sure. So
Yes, please.
that'd be awesome. All right.
You guys can find this podcast a little bit later at podbean.com, and don't miss the widescreen version on Jesse's YouTube channel, Shapes in Nature.
All righty.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good
guys.
to meet you, Taylor.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so
Thanks
much
to meet
for
you
teaching
too.
us about
Yeah, see you,
bison.
Taylor. I'll see you soon.